Well, hi guys, welcome, and who dat? I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in to Rosenfield 10, where I cover our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Are you a Who Dat fan? If you're a Who Dat fan, subscribe to my channel. I love the Saints as much as you do. Think of me as a friend or a coworker, a fellow fan who loves the Saints, and that's what I like to talk about. You see one of my videos, you're going to get to hear what I'm thinking. You let me know in the comments what you're thinking. I respond to my comments. So give me something, tell me something, ask me a question, contradict what I said, but subscribe nonetheless. And you'll get a lot of Saints coverage about the off season, this all important off season. And we're going to take a look at my monthly breakdown of the greatest positions of need for our beloved New Orleans Saints. I've done this every month since September, and a lot of it has changed, and a lot of it will change depending on what free agency brings us. And then the beautiful draft after that. These are the positions of need that the Saints need to focus on in the upcoming free agency and the upcoming draft. 2026 NFL draft happens in late April. Free agency gets kicked off pretty soon here in the next month or so, and we've got a lot of positions to fill. So, what's the greatest positions of need for the Saints? Every time I do this list, I give you a top eight. Well, today I'm going to show you 18 positions. Here's the list. And we are talking about specifics here. It's more of a broad thing before, but 18 positions. Yeah, you've got, you've got eight draft picks, and you're going to find some money for free agency, but you're not going to fill 18 different positions, I don't think. But these are positions that the Saints are in need of. Everything, just about everything. I don't have kicker here. And kicker's something that we could probably improve on as well. We're going to start by focusing on the bottom eight here, and then we're going to talk about the top 10 after that. But we're going to start with the bottom eight and the least position of need of strength here, quarterback. Now, we just lost Jake Hayner to the Buffalo Bills, and Hunter Deckers is ironically playing with the Houston Gamblers. So what? Do we pick up Hunter Deckers after that, and then we'll have ourselves three quarterbacks? I mean, right now we've got Tyler Shuck, got Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler's kind of like a trade bait for a lot of people right now. He performed well enough, combined with the fact that half the league needed backups during the course of the year last year, and a lot of those backups looked pretty bad. You combine all of that, and yeah, Spencer Rattler's a hot topic for a trade candidate. Shuck won the battle. Shuck's going to be our future. And I like the idea of Spencer Rattler as a backup. A lot of people think we need to go get a free agent quarterback. You go get a veteran free agent quarterback, you'll have three quarterbacks on your team. Maybe Spencer Rattler could be traded then, and then you can just pick up some UDFA after the draft and have your third quarterback, developmental quarterback, or bring Hunter Deckers back, something like that. So quarterback can be easily managed. I think there's a few veterans we can get on the cheap. We don't want a guy coming in here competing with Shuck. We want a veteran quarterback that can assume that, hey, I've been in the league 8 years kind of stance with our 1 year pro quarterback. And then Shuck can learn some ins and outs. Shuck can get that uh, advice from a player in confidence that he might not get from a coach. You've got quarterback, former quarterbacks that are coaches all over this coaching staff, and it's proven to be effective, in my opinion. Spencer Rattler looked great compared to what he did as a rookie, and Tyler Shuck, of course, looked great. So yeah, I think the situation as far as grooming a quarterback on this team is pretty good. The coaching staff is set up pretty well, but there is something to be said for having a veteran quarterback in there who can go with Shuck behind the coaches' backs and say, this is what the coaches might actually mean when they say this. You know, I don't know. It's that there may be some value there. There may be some value. I've heard Jeff Nowak talk about this, and it makes sense when you think of Drew Brees and he talks about how great uh what Luke was on the team, McCown, a guy that was never going to compete for the starting job, a guy that was just strictly backup, a guy that came in here after the fact, and Drew Brees talked about how valuable that dude was on the sideline. Drew Brees is just a consummate professional and it's going to make everybody sound like the best player. So take that into account, but there may be something there. There may be something there to a fellow player giving you advice instead of your boss giving you advice. Even though your boss was a former player. And yeah, I think Kellen Moore's claim to fame with the players right now is that he wants to make this a players first situation in New Orleans. Being a former player, getting all those days off during training camp, starting practices late. There's a lot of stuff that Kellen Moore does. And it just feels like, yeah, a player would do something like that, not a coach, a player. So it's a thin line, but quarterback is here as a position of need. We're going to need a third guy. So if that's Hunter Deckers and we keep Rattler, or if that's going to get a free agent veteran, it's something the Saints could look at. They could also keep Spencer Rattler and maybe draft a quarterback in the sixth round. Maybe instead of Hunter Deckers, or you go get Jake Hayner 2.0, except hopefully better. Grab him in the sixth round and develop him. You're still developing Rattler. Shuck is young, but Shuck's the old man in the room right now. But you know, lots of different ways you can go about grabbing that third quarterback. So it's at the bottom of the list here, but it's here. All right, next is NB. That's Nickelback. We keep Alante Taylor. Great. We've got our nickel. And nickel is the star. Maybe we have a future star in Jonas Sanker. Maybe Julian Blackman could be the future star. Maybe Quincy Riley could be the future star. Whatever is going to happen, Nickelback is something we should think about. Now, Alante Taylor gets re-signed. We've got our great starter. He doesn't have a history of getting hurt, and so we've got some decent backups if we reacquire Ugo Amadi or Terrell Burgess. We'll have decent backups at Nickelback. You know, you could improve. You could improve. Both those guys are undrafted. No, I think Burgess was drafted, but I like Burgess. I like Amadi. We require those guys. You have good, decent depth in a pinch. Should something happen to Taylor, now we may lose Taylor. He may go sign a big outside cornerback contract with another team, and we'll be looking for a starting star slash nickel. And I don't want Ugo Amadi or Terrell Burgess to be my starting nickelback. No, I like the veteran depth. I like their ability to play on special teams. I like their ability to play the safety position. All of that combined with playing nickel. But when you think about it, Taylor goes, and nickelback's going to be important. You have your starter already with perhaps Jonas Sanker or Blackman or Riley. You're still going to want depth. I still think you're going to want to improve on players like Terrell Burgess and Ugo Amadi, even at depth at nickelback. So nickelback, and you can see in my top 10, I've got cornerback up there. So cornerback is highlighted. That's that's a replacement for Alante Taylor, but that's more of an outside guy that I'm talking about up there. The nickelback becomes very important if Taylor's not re-signed. So I do this every month, and that's the reason why, because things change, things happen. And yeah, this far away from free agency in the draft, nickelback doesn't seem like a big concern if Taylor is re-signed. Free agency is going to determine a lot of this. It's important nonetheless. It's way down here because I think we try to re-sign Taylor. I think we're going to end up paying him between 13 and 15 million. And it all depends on what other teams feel. It really depends on what Staley feels. If Staley's stoked about Taylor being his star, then we get Taylor back. I don't know if another team's going to pay Taylor 17 million, but I think we'll go as high as 15 million. He should make somewhere around 12 million, so I think 15 million would keep him here. We'll see. Next on the list is tight end. I have tight end mentioned in the top 10 here. This particular tight end mentioned in the bottom eight is just another backup. We have no bodies at tight end, basically. I think we have Aiden Mitchell on a restricted free agent deal, so we can reacquire him, and he's a good run blocker. Then we have Maliki Mataval, the seventh round pick from last year, and he just feels like a piece. He feels like a practice squad guy right now. I don't think he's shown in anything to expect him to just be our number two guy. Juwan Johnson's our starter. Juwan Johnson's our receiving tight end. So when you see tight end in the top 10, that's for like a number two tight end. This is another mention at tight end. I've doubled up a few times here because we need more than one. Hayden Mitchell and Maliki Mataval being 3 and 4. I don't know about all that. We can improve there. Whether we get whether this is a run blocking, strictly run blocking tight end or a all around tight end, we need all of it, and the room is bare. So yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a tight end in two places in the offseason. One in free agency and one in the draft. That's why I have it mentioned twice, and it is here. On this bottom eight, now we're going to talk about guard. We all know guard's the most important thing, but I haven't mentioned a third time here because we need two starting guards at the top of the list, but we also need depth. Now, if you want to consider Torricelli Simpkins as depth, fine. I would prefer he be my second backup. I would want a better backup than Torricelli Simpkins. So I've got guard mentioned here at the bottom. As a backup, we need a backup guard. A guy that can flex as center and guard would be nice. And, if we re-sign Dylan Reduns, that's the kind of guy I'm talking about here. A guy that has starting ability. You don't want him to start, but he can, and he can play both sides of the line. He flexes at tackle too, but he's not very good at tackle. But a guy like Dylan Reduns would fill this particular need here, and it's something I think we need. I don't want to go into you lose a starting guard, and then you've got a backup starting for half the year for you. And Torricelli Simpkins starting half the season for me doesn't sound exciting. So re-sign Dylan Reduns or get this backup guard somehow. That's mentioned here. The next two on this bottom tier, safety and linebacker. It's two positions I think we have great depth at. And if we re-sign Demario Davis, then we'll have very good starters. People like to discount Pete Werner at linebacker. They like to act like he's not even on the team anymore. And closer to reality is Demario Davis isn't on this team anymore. So if you're telling yourself that both our starting linebackers are going to be gone, then yeah, linebackers a desperate position of need. But Werner's still on this team under contract, and he played fine. He's not a playmaker, but he's an adequate guy to be in there. You don't worry too much about it. Danny Stutzman probably gives you just as much in coverage as Pete Werner. So I don't see the upgrade there in coverage. So as an overall linebacker, Pete Werner's good. He's around the ball and he makes a ton of tackles. So Demario Davis stays, Pete Werner stays. You got Danny Stutzman, you got Isaiah Stallbird, and you've got Jalen Ford. So you're really good at linebacker. And at safety, it's the same thing. Your starters are Jonas Sanker and Justin Reed, and you just re-signed Julian Blackman. You're three deep at safety. Plus, you've got Jordan Howden. So we've got decent depth. And like I said, if you re-sign your nickelback options, Terrell Burgess and Ugo Amadi, then you've got safety options there too, a number 5 and a number 6 safety. So linebacker and safety are good on this team. Davis leaves. Yeah, there's a need for linebacker. I have safety rated a little higher than linebacker because even though we just re-signed Julian Blackman, a really good safety could become the star on this team, and that would be, effectively two positions. You get a safety that's going to plug in at star for for his whole career here, and then can flex as a safety too, and that's to me that's more important than go and get a backup linebacker or potential starter because everybody wants Stutzman to be the replacement for Davis. Or Werner slides over in Davis's spot and Stutzman starts, plays first and second down, and you bring Stallbert in and third down, and you're good at linebacker. I mean, we might not have to make a move at all if we lose Davis. But yeah, if a guy falls to you at linebacker, you take him, put him in the mix. I feel bad for Stutzman because the fans may want to trade Pete Werner, but that might not be what Brandon Staley and the Saints want to do. So Pete Werner might be on this team whether you like it or not. Trade him a lot and put Stutzman as my starter. Ideally in my future thinkings about this team. I do that a lot. Trade Werner, start Stutzman next to Davis. You better get Davis back. And you've had a Pro Bowl linebacker starting for you for a decade, so you might need Danny Stutzman to be really, really good for us to not feel some bumps here at linebacker. All right, and the last two in this bottom tier, it's the backup offensive lineman. Besides guard, it's center and offensive tackle. I have tackle listed here ahead of center because it's two positions, left tackle and right tackle. However, we have players on our team assuming the backup roles right now at tackle with Will Sherman and with Awesome Richards and with Xavier Truss, who can play guard too. You've got bodies on the team under contract right now that can play backup tackle. You don't have a body that can play center, except for Torricelli Simpkins and Cesar Ruiz. But so I think re-signing Luke Fortner to be your backup center would be a good idea. I don't think the league's pounding down the door to sign Fortner or Dylan Redunds at guard for that matter. But you re-sign Fortner, and I think you'll be okay at center. I mean, we looked all right without McCoy there compared to the year before with Fortner in there. So backup center, it's one position. It needs to be filled. And we keep thinking, go get Fortner and everything will be all right. We'll see. You could also get a swing tackle guard type to be some additional depth at center. Offensive tackle, we need an upgrade there. Re-signing Fortner would be okay, but to lean on Awesome Richards and Will Sherman as your backup offensive tackles, primary offensive tackles, backups, I think you need to upgrade there. That's why I have it slightly ahead of center. There's a chance to get that backup center in multiple ways. Offensive tackles are so hard to come by. You draft one in the fourth round, you're going to be wishing you got a potential starter. The starting tackles are good as long as they're healthy. Your starting center's good as long as he's healthy too. I think backup offensive tackle is pretty important, as well as backup center. So yeah, re-sign Dylan Redunds to take care of that backup guard. Re-sign Fortner to take care of that backup center, and then get yourself a tackle. Get yourself a big guy with long arms in the fourth round. I'm not going to complain at all. Because when your tackle goes down for the year and you're playing Awesome Richards or Bill Sherman for a half a year or longer, then yeah, you're gonna want some talent there. I think we can upgrade there. All right, that's the bottom eight, and I usually only give you eight, but in this video I'm giving you 18, and now we're gonna focus on the top 10 because we're gonna get position specific here, and I have been. We double up on a few of these. You see guard twice at the top. left guard and right guard. That's the two biggest positions of need for this team. We need a starting left guard, numero uno priority. And then we need a starting right guard because Cesar Ruiz ain't it. And that's the two that I think you need more than anything. You can go into the season with Cesar Ruiz. You can go into the season with Jawan Johnson and Peyton Mitchell and Maliki Matabau at tight end too, and be like, okay, let's go. I think you can upgrade. I think right guards, we need an upgrade there, big time. Left guard, we need a starter. We need two starting guards. And that's the most important thing this team needs. I think your running game gets better. I think Tyler Shuck is provided for in a major way if you do this. This should be a high priority for the Saints in free agency. We need to go get the best guard we can get. Yeah, throw money at it. If it's the fourth best guy because the other three signed somewhere else, still throw money at it because you're gonna come up with money for free agency. You're gonna get that salary cap worked out where you're gonna have a ton of money. And yeah, I'd rather you throw it at guard and miss than to throw it at any other position and miss because we need them that bad. We need guard that bad. So I want you to go get a couple. I want you to pay David Edwards as much as any guard's gotten paid in the last 3 years. The highest paid guard, okay, the highest paid guard's getting 23 million. And there's a couple of guards getting 22, 21, right around roughly 21. So I think Edwards is expected to garner 20 million. No, you can make him a 22, 23 million a year guy. If Buffalo's only willing to spend 20 million, and if other teams are willing to spend 23 million, promise him that you'll make him the highest paid guard in the league and throw 25 million at him. That's how bad I need a starting guard for this team. I will make David Edwards the highest paid guard in the league in league history and pay him $25 million a year. 4 years, $100 million. Come play for the Saints. Come block for Tyler Shuck and for Alvin Kamara. And come on, we need to get that guy in here. And if you miss on him, well, then you go ahead and pay somebody else. Top market value. If it's a 13, $14 million a year guy, pay him 15 million. Do whatever you got to do to get the guy in here. You look at the top 4 or 5 guards that are available, the best ones, and you throw money at all of them until you get 2 of them. That's the way I feel. If you can only get one, guard becomes the high priority in the draft. I mean, Pregnon in the second round is a no-brainer. You get Keelan Rutledge in the third round. You don't even think about anybody else. Third round comes up, Rutledge is on the board, grab him. I mean, it's going to have to be that way because that's what we need fixed more than anything on this team. And no one can deny it. We need 2 guards, starting guards on this team, and they better be good or you can roll out Dylan Reduns and Cesar Ruiz again and see how far you're going to get. That's the top 2 needs. Next on that top tier is running back. And I think our running back room can be good if you improve the offensive line, if you can get better blocking up front. If there are holes to run through, then I think Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, Devin Neal, Audric Estime can run through those holes and be effective. Audric Estime proved to me that he can come in and start and play and look really good and do it all. So I love Estime. I want to keep him. I want to make him part of the rotation. I talked about the three-headed monster in the Super Bowl, and I talk about that's what we should be doing here. If you're not going to go get a stud running back like Jeremiah Love in the first round, then three-headed monster. You got your bruiser, fourth quarter guy in Audric Estime. You've got your all-around guy in Devin Neal, who can be that Pierre Thomas type and catch screens and use blocking and doesn't have the speed, but gets where he needs to get all the time anyway. Good pass protector, good runner between the tackles. But all you need is the Reggie Bush, the speed element. That's all you need. Alvin Kamara can't give you that anymore. I think the running back room is good. You go and get a speed guy, a late round guy that happens to have speed, and then you have yourself the three-headed monster. I don't know if that's what Kellen Moore has in mind. I don't know. He had a healthy Alvin Kamara for a little while this past year, and we just did not see it work out at all. I think Kellen Moore needs something else as his number one running back. So my whole three-headed monster idea with the speed guy, you know, I think it could be a fix, but man, Kellen Moore wants his guy. He wants Jeremiah Love with the eighth overall pick. I'm not going to argue with that. It's a high need for me. Playmaker at running back is the reason why I have running back so high. Besides guard, it's my highest rated position of need. I just talked about this running back room being good and complementary. If they're all healthy, it could be pretty good. It wouldn't be the worst in the league unless Kamara falls off a cliff, but it's still so important to have a playmaker there to take some of the pressure off of Shuck by having a running game that's working, and you know you can do that if you have a stud there. So it's most important for me. Jeremiah Love with pick eight, it just feels right. You're passing up a lot of other stuff to do that. But if it works, Kellen Moore gets his guy, and we can get this running game going, and then the offense will be so much better. Two good guards and a running back can change the fortunes of this team. Next is tight end, and that can change the fortunes too. We don't have a run blocking tight end. We have Juwan Johnson. So we need a run blocking tight end, a guy that's going to be out there on first and second down that can provide something as a receiver too, but mostly as a run blocker. And I don't know if Hayden Mitchell is that type of guy. I think he had one, maybe two catches last year for us, and then he got hurt. I mean, he looked really good as a run blocker. Jack Stoll is the same thing. He was our primary run blocking tight end, and he had a few catches, but yeah, he's not going to do anything for you as a receiver. Juwan Johnson isn't going to do anything for you as a run blocker. So I think all around tight end is a guy that's important here. That's why I have it so high. A guy that can run block. I want to go get Dallas Goedert. That's what I want to do. I want to go get him in free agency and put him next to Juwan Johnson and have two tight ends. And Goddard can be our starter. And when Johnson comes in, we can treat him like a wide receiver, split him out wide. He can block well out wide, but if he's an inline, if we need an inline tight end, we need somebody better than Johnson. I think Dallas Goedert would be a great pick. That would be pretty solid. You get him back with Kellen Moore. He had a good year under Kellen Moore. I know he's old. I know he'll be expensive. That's one of them things in free agency I'm willing to spend money on. You want to go get a big time running back? If you can get a one of the top five or six running backs in free agency, and you can go get that guy for under 10 million, go right ahead. Everybody's talking about Kenneth Walker making a ton of money. He was supposed to get paid $10 million, and now that he's Super Bowl MVP, somebody's going to pay him 15, 16. Remember, Kamara's making 17 for us this year already, as it is. So yeah, if you can get a Dowdell for 9 million, 8 million, something like that, maybe uh, the receiver Gainwell. Maybe you go get a Gainwell for like 5 million, 6 million, something like that. You can spend some money in free agency on running back, but I wouldn't want to go spend 15 million on Walker or Brees Hall. If we do that, yeah, you ain't drafting Jeremiah Love, I don't think. We could do that. We could do that. I mean, man, if that's what Kellen Moore wants, fine. But we need tight ends. We need tight ends in that room. And I'm willing to spend money on a tight end. If it's Higbee or if it's Isaiah Likely, even if it's another receiver, Kellen Moore can figure out what to do with him. I want a run blocking guy. I want an all around guy. And yeah, I mentioned it twice on this big list because we need bodies. We need all types, and we need them all in that room pronto. So I say high priority in free agency, and you consider it in the draft as well. The next two in this top tier are defensive line, defensive tackle, defensive end. Normally, I just say defensive line and we leave it at that, but we need both of them. You've got Devon Godshaw as your starting nose tackle, and he didn't give you a lot of reps toward the end of the year. Had that constant day off every week, and I don't know how close he is to retirement. I'm pretty sure we have him for one more year under contract. So you got a starter, the same starter you had last year. And your backups there at nose are Christian Boyd and John Ridgeway. Boyd's under contract. I don't know about Ridgeway. We might have him one more year. They seem to like him, and he played all along the defensive line. But if you want a starting nose tackle beyond Godshaw, you have to be really sold on Christian Boyd. Boyd would have to prove himself in this upcoming year, his third year in the league, that he could be that starter because you need a nose tackle for this defense to work, and you're going to need a guy, a difference maker. And Davin Godshaw to me was adequate this year, not a difference maker. I think it's important. And you can get all types of defensive tackles because if you get a three tech, a typical three tech, you can just slide him in the defensive end in a three-man front or, have him there for the four-man front, five-man front. You could use both types because we don't get pass rush from our defensive tackles either. So big bodied nose tackle, plus you need run stoppers, plus you need pass rushers. So the middle of that defensive line to me is super important. I would not be upset to address that several times. You get a couple in free agency. Maybe there's some guys out there that Staley feels like can fit in his defensive scheme on the defensive line that he can go and get for cheap in free agency and add a few guys, like Jonah Williams or Chris Rumpet on the edge or whatever. But to address it a couple of times would not upset me at all. I've drafted in my mocks a couple of defensive tackles, just about every mock. Because I think that defensive line, we need to do something. We need to create pressure with that line. We also need to stop the run with that line. And we need a big nose tackle there. And we also need defensive ends. Nathan Shepard, Jonathan Bullard, if you re-sign Jonathan Bullard. And you have Brian Bresee, Nathan Shepard, Jonathan Bullard. That's what we went in with last year, plus a little Jonah Williams. And it was okay, but we can improve. It can be a lot better, especially if you get a stud. If Ruben Bain falls to pick 8 for the Saints and we grab him and we decide to put him hand in the dirt at defensive end instead of a stand-up edge rusher, that would improve this team a lot. If we decide to grab Peter Woods and play him at defensive end, that would improve this team a lot. Yeah, we need help on the defensive line. We need help at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. So I would address defensive line several times in the offseason, up to 4 times, get a couple of ends, get a couple of defensive tackles. We need it. I'm not sold on returning starters combined with if we re-sign guys that we had on the team last year. I'm not convinced that that's how this defense can function 100%. We need upgrades there big time. The next one on the list is cornerback, and I was talking about outside cornerback here. If Alontae Taylor is a free agent, you need a nickel, but he was also our starting outside cornerback in base formation. So outside cornerback to me is important. Quincy Riley being a starter as a fourth round pick is inspiring from a person point of view. And hey, look at this. But is this what we're really going in with? And if Quincy Riley holds on to that starting gig opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry, great. But your primary outside backup is Isaac Yiadom. And I don't know if you want that to be the case. I don't know if you want Yiadom to be your number one guy. After that, it's Rajon Wright. It's a couple of guys on the practice squad and outside corner, especially if Alontae Taylor goes. Outside corner is pretty important to me. Everyone's talking about the two best defensive players in the Super Bowl this past week were the two starting cornerbacks for each team and how they were able to shut down the number one wide receiver on the other team. And yeah, it all of a sudden cornerback became important, right? Yeah. I didn't have to watch the Super Bowl to know that. I've been talking about it forever. Come on, guys. If you have a shutdown corner, you're doing really well. Marshawn Lattimore in his prime, we didn't worry about it. Throw somebody else on the other side, we're good. Kool-Aid is like a top end number two. You go get a shutdown corner, and then Quincy Riley is, playing when needed. So it's very important. Made all the more important when you consider Alontae Taylor plays that and nickel. And I mentioned both of them here. Edge rusher's next on the list, and it's the body type. If we re-sign Cam Jordan and we go in the next year with the same group, Chase Young, Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, re-sign Chris Rump, you're good. You're fine. I mean, you got a lot of sacks out of that group last year. And if you improve the defensive line, or make these guys even better. But it's body types in this type of system that we don't have. Chris Rump ain't good enough. And, I don't know. Is the ultimate goal to get an outside linebacker who can really pass rush? Is that Brandon Staley's ultimate goal for that outside edge rusher? Is that his ultimate goal? To get a defensive player that can cover like a linebacker slash safety and rush the passer like a linebacker slash defensive end? I mean, that's the body type he really doesn't have. I always say, Granderson was the best in coverage out of those three. Jordan couldn't do it at all. Chase Young wasn't really asked to do it. He was asked to rush the passer all the time. So, what is the ultimate goal opposite Chase Young? You want a guy that can cover half the time? You really want an outside linebacker there? You just want a stud that can rush the passer, who's a liability if he's asked to cover? I don't know. I don't know. Edge rusher to me, we've got certain types right now. It seems like we're missing the lighter linebacker size guy. So I don't want to make David Bailey the eighth overall pick if the only time he's out there is on third down rushing the passer. I don't want that. I don't want that position to be constantly in coverage either. I feel like that position is just a defensive end that's kind of extended beyond the offensive tackle, way out standing up. And it's kind of his job to rush the passer every time. It's whatever Brandon Staley wants to do. And we can use all types. We can use defensive ends that can rush the passer. We can use outside linebackers that can rush the passer. And we could use some people that can cover too. So edge rusher is important to me. It's just weird. It's just weird. It feels like you're getting a part-time player if you address that position. You're either getting a pass rushing specialist who's not going to be able to hold up against the run or cover against the pass, or are you getting a guy that's not going to be really good at rushing the passer? It's not going to be able to hold up. You get a guy that can hold up against the run. I think Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, and Chase Young hold up pretty good on the edge against the run at their body type, 265, 270. Everyone says we're missing that speed element. You want to go get a 250-pound guy, he's going to be a part-time player unless he's Arvell Reese. So edge rusher is important to me. I just don't think it's that great need. You go get a piece, and he's going to be highlighted on third down as a pass rusher, pretty much only. So, but it's there, and it was so important for so many months, but I just don't feel it is. You resign Cam Jordan, and you just need another body type who will be a part-time player, but you could use it. Okay, it's maybe the sack total this past year was a mirage. Maybe so, maybe. And if that's the case, then you really need it. But I've got it toward the bottom here, along with wide receiver. God, man, edge rusher and wide receiver are those two positions that everyone's mocking to the Saints early this year, and I have it relatively low on this list. But they are needs at wide receiver. I gloat about the potential. Jalen Polk being a number two, number three wide receiver is a real possibility. We have no idea yet. But you get Vele healthy, producing like he was when he was starting and playing. You get Vele opposite Olave. That's pretty solid. Then you're looking for a number three guy, and Jalen Polk could be a number two, number three guy. He could be that guy you're trying to draft in the third round this year. You could already have him on the team. Then you got Trey Palmer. And then you got everybody that played wide receiver at the end of the year last year at the bottom of this roster. You still feel like you need something, huh? You got a couple of new guys on the practice squad, or whatever, from the XFL or whatever, the 6'6" and 6'4" guy that we just signed. You hope they produce. You hope that they provide size at wide receiver besides Vele, and they're able to produce. You hope so. But that body type, if those two don't work out, they have to be good. Just because they're tall doesn't mean they're going to work out. They have to be good. If they don't work out, you do need that body type still, another one besides Vele. And then you also need a wide receiver who provides yards after catch, and none of the guys on this roster do that right now for us. So it's a couple of things you're looking for at wide receiver. Maybe you 6'6" and 6'4" guys that you just grabbed and put on the practice squad or whatever on the roster, whatever. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath on those guys until preseason, and we'll see what happens. And they still have a long way to go to make the roster because, yeah, you see those guys beating out Vele or Polk or Palmer, maybe. Palmer should be a fast guy, do some returning for us, and but yeah, big body type is something we need that needs to work out. And then also the yards after catch guy. So wide receiver, I've got it down here toward the bottom because there's some promise with the room, but there's I'm not going to cry if we go get Jordan Tyson with the eighth overall pick. I'm not going to be upset about that at all. We could still use a stud wide receiver. Vele being a competent starter with adequate size opposite Olave is great, but the truth is he's a seventh round pick who we acquired with a fourth round pick. And talk about, talk about great stories for players. That's a great story. If Vele becomes our starter and he's really good, great story. But yeah, go ahead and get a guy. Polk and Vele have to play out of their minds for wide receiver to be ignored as a position of need. So it's here. And then the last one that I haven't mentioned is punter. Of course, we need a punter. You can get a punter any old way. I'm pretty sure you can get a guy in free agency that'll be better than the guy we have on our roster right now. There you go. That's 18 positions of need for this team. And this was the biggest version of this monthly position of need video yet. Yeah, February 2026. This is the way I'm looking at it right now. Free agency starts real soon. Don't think I'll have another video like this because in March we're going to start fulfilling positions of need. Well, the list will change. So yeah, we will have another one in March, and we'll be talking about the positions we addressed, and then the ones we still need to address. So subscribe to Rosenfield 10, and you'll get all those videos and more. Everything about the Saints, everything about the draft, everything about this offseason and beyond. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?